I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. Anywhere I go, DC's coming with me. I spent my whole damn life in the city. I could go for broke, but the capital is in me.
Welcome, everyone, to District Divided, a DC sports podcast, more specifically, a Washington Commanders podcast. I am Amit. That is KDot. Today's episode, we are previewing the matchup with the 0-1 Denver Broncos, but expectations are sky high for them. So we're going to get to know them first, talk a little bit about the 2023 Denver Broncos. Then we do the matchup breakdowns. The Washington Commanders offense against that Denver Broncos defense. The Denver Broncos offense against our Commanders defense. We have a parlay that KDot has built for you guys. We get into the comment mailbag as we always do. And then after the pod, we talk about the Jets quarterback situation because that is a national headline right now. KDot, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great, brother. I'm feeling pretty good.
Love
Got
it.
my central air working in the basement in my house again. Was a $15 fix. Took 3 weeks to figure that out, but I'm feeling great. Feeling great.
Hey, I'm glad you're feeling great. And before we begin, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment so that we can read it in the comment mailbag, and KDot.
Share. We need District Divided evangelists. Okay, we need you to share the good gospel. That's the way that all podcasts really work, right? Like, I don't think we're going to do anything. Well, maybe I will do something crazy enough to make us go viral. But until we get to that point, until I have nothing left to care about as far as my own dignity, let's before we get to there, before KDot ruins everything, share it to your friends, share it to your Commanders fans, man. Like, if there's something that resonates with you, if there's a conversation, you talk to your workers around the fucking water cooler, or if you're remote working, shoot it in a fucking text thread. We all got them, the fantasy football group, all that shit. Let the people know about the gospel that is District Divided. We need it. We should be bigger than we are. Help us get there. Be part of it.
Appreciate you, KDot. And without further ado, why don't we jump into it? So, the Denver Broncos. High expectations, mile high expectations, if you will, for this team. They did lose their first game 17-16 at home to the Las Vegas Raiders, but they have invested a lot of money in this team, KDot. So, of course, the blockbuster trade last season for Russell Wilson, their quarterback, 5 years, $242 million. That is his contract. It didn't work last year. So what do? They get rid of Nathaniel Hackett. They bring in Sean Payton, a legendary head coach. He is getting paid north of $18 million per season for 5 years. They are throwing the kitchen sink at this situation. They are, all in to the max when it comes to Russell Wilson, when it comes to the expectations of this team, when it comes to bringing in a huge head coach. This offseason, they bring in Ben Powers and Mike McGlinchey, two different guys that they want on the offensive line to start. They ended up having a nice game against the Las Vegas Raiders. KDot, what do you make of the 2023 Denver Broncos?
They have no choice. The Russell Wilson contract is one of the worst in the history of sports. And them going all in on Russ cooking and burning down the fucking house last year, alongside Hackett or whatever anybody else wants to fucking blame. They have to go all in. There is no option of ousting the Russell Wilson thing. Nobody was going to trade for him after this year. So what do? They have to go all in. They have certain skills players that are pretty fucking legit when healthy. Jerry Jeudy's a guy that everybody keeps talking my head off about. You look at his numbers, they're not that fucking impressive because he can barely ever stay fucking healthy, right?
And he didn't play last week.
So like there is this element of they had to bring in the coach to try to make shit happen. We know that the only reason they got Nathaniel Hackett was because they thought they were going to be in the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes instead of doing the Russell Wilson thing. That did not work. Green Bay did not want to trade Aaron at that particular point in time. So they went with Russ, and now they're just trying to make things work. But overall, if you're looking at this team, they have a few guys that are like key linchpin dudes that look like they're going to be around for a while. And then everybody else is a giant question mark. I mean, that's the thing is this is not some world beating team. This is, hey, we're bringing in a big name head coach with a big name quarterback that's trying to relive his yesteryear. And we're trying to make it work. There's the only high expectations are because of the names and the dollar amounts that are being spent. It's not necessarily because anybody actually thinks they know what the fuck is going to happen in Denver.
Yeah. Now, that being said, KDot, when we look at the line, the Broncos are favored by 3.5 points. This is Sam Howell's first ever start on the road, right? So he is 2-0 as a starter against Dallas, which was impressive, and then against the Cardinals last week. But this is going to be his first road game. So why don't we go ahead and jump into that Commanders offense against this Denver Broncos defense. The Denver Broncos defense, they also brought in Zach Allen, a guy who used to play for the Cardinals, to help with the pass rush against the Las Vegas Raiders. No sacks against Jimmy Garoppolo, who actually played quite well, KDot. I went back and watched some of that Raiders Broncos game. Garoppolo looked great, but the offensive line also held up against these guys. Also, on the other hand, the Commanders, Sam Howell was under duress pretty often. So what do you make of this matchup here, KDot? What are the expectations? Anything we can exploit?
I think it's mainly about exploiting. You look at the front seven for Denver, and there's nobody that really stands out. You say Zach Allen, but I mean, okay. Right. Outside of that, there are two names on the defense that you really have to worry about. There's Patrick Surtain, who very young corner, but already in the running, is one of
elite
the top
corner already.
So like he's in that Sauce Gardner. They're coming out of college, just fucking ready to play. And then Justin Simmons, the safety there for him.
Correct.
So you got two guys that are basically no-go zones on that defense. You do not want to test either one of those dudes. But beyond that, you have space to roam and space to do things when it comes to the rest of the defense. Now, if you look at what it is that what the Raiders were able to do, you look at Jimmy Garoppolo's stat line at the end. He has the one pick, but overall, it was a fairly efficient game there for what they were doing on offense. There is a lot of, you don't necessarily need to force the issue, but take what the defense is giving you. You look at the overall stat line as far as like Josh Jacobs, there's nothing that really stands out to you. It very much feels like this Broncos team, this Commanders team, are fairly even match coming out of week one, right? It's two offenses that haven't necessarily clicked, but we'll get to that. But it's the offense for us. What we want to see more than anything is, all right, what does the progression of Sam Howell kind of look like in this week too? The Cardinals defense, you want to talk about no names on a defense other than Budda Baker. There's no one that mattered, and they still were able to get 6 sacks against our Commanders offense. A lot of that, depending on how it is you look at it, was Sam Howell holding on the ball too long sometimes, or the offensive line just not playing up to snuff. They're going to have to play a more solid, well-rounded game than that against Denver. In order for us to take the next step, there's the shooting yourself in the foot aspect of it that we need to make sure that we're completely eliminating. No penalties, and keep Sam Howell as clean as fucking possible, right? Let him kind of develop and play. But there's also a matter of, I think that the key to us is going to be what it is we're doing with the run game against this front seven for Denver.
Yeah.
Outside of Patrick Surtain, you're going to be able to take your shots every once in a while, but it doesn't mean that we need to have Sam Howell dropping back 50 times this game. Just lighten it up. Run the ball, keep it balanced.
And you know what? Here's the thing. I get the feeling we're going to see something quite similar to what we saw in week one, if game one was indeed indicative of what the Broncos are capable of doing, right? So Josh Jacobs is looking for a big deal with the Las Vegas Raiders. He ends up signing a 1-year deal. Yep. And what was it? 19 carries for 48 yards. We talked about 19 carries, 59 yards for Brian Robinson. We missed out on the parlay by 1 yard.
1 yard.
But the point being, they sold out on the run against Josh Jacobs, right? And so all of a sudden, Jimmy Garoppolo was put in a situation where he had to play well. And boy, did he, honestly. His passer rating was well beyond 100, and his QBR was 77. So he had a really good game. Quick note on that game, KDot, and Sean Payton and sort of the balls he has, right? They started the season with an onside kick. I don't know how many people know that. And they did recover it, but one of their players touched it half a yard before it crossed 10 yards. So it became illegal touching. But Jimmy Garoppolo did an excellent job maneuvering the pocket and getting open. So it's not like Denver got no pressure. They got no sacks, but Garoppolo did a very good job of manipulating the pocket and finding the open people. I think this is going to be a situation where Sam Howell needs to play really well for us to win this game. I expect the Broncos to sell out on the run again and go, let the young guy, the 5th round pick, whatever the national narrative is, beat us. And I'm also curious about what they're going to do, because Terry McLaurin's toe, while he is a full participant in practice for both sides, right? Do they have Patrick Surtain travel with him, or do they fear Jahan Dotson? Because I think Surtain was actually traveling with Devontae Adams a whole lot. Does
Yeah.
Terry get the same respect with the turf toe? I don't know. Do they let Mathis, their second corner, get isolated with Jahan, or does he get isolated with Terry?
Problem for them.
I'm very curious to see what happens, because Mathis, there's again in their secondary, got burned for 2 touchdowns by Jacoby Myers. That's Jacoby Myers. We have Jahan Dotson. We have Terry McLaurin. So I'm curious to see how their secondary responds to it, and how Howell responds to KDot. Watching that game, the camera was shaking. It was so loud in Denver. It's going to be loud again. Again, expectations are high. Curious to see that matchup.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's what I'm saying as far as Sam Howell and his performance is taking what the defense is giving you. At the end of the day, when you're looking at that secondary, you're looking at Justice Simmons and you're looking at Patrick Surtain. Where are they going? Who are they covering? Who else can you get involved with it? There should be shots you can take against Mathis, because if you're going through the progressions, one of our guys should be open against that guy at certain points in this game. Mathis can absolutely be beat. They had a pretty good season last year, but to start off this season, it's been absolutely atrocious, at least going off that week 1 game. I still think overall, this has got to be one of those games that we have to dictate to the defense what it is we're doing. It always feels as though our heels are kind of on our backs and we're trying to figure out what it is that they're doing. And I that's just not something I want to see here on this particular side. We need to take it to them. But the wild card to me is that you get 6 sacks against an Arizona Cardinals front defense that didn't have anyone, and we were open about them tanking. While this Denver Broncos defense isn't lights out, they do have a secondary that makes it a little bit harder to have a guy get open. So if Sam Howell has to hold on to that football, what does that look like? Or if we're just based on talent alone, if Arizona had 6 sacks, this defense is at least worth 8. So
that's the reality of the situation, right? You'd mentioned it perfectly. There were no expectations for Arizona. All of a sudden they have 6 sacks, right? Pro Football Focus's worst defensive line heading into this season got 6 sacks in game 1 on the road. So offensive line obviously needs to be better. Running backs, if they need to sit in and protect, need to be a whole lot better. Curious to see what happens there. Just a real quick note on the injury report for both sides of the ball. Frank Clark, a lot of you will know that name. He's a stalwart in the NFL. He hurt his hip in practice at Broncos practice, so he's actually out for the game, which does help us certainly with the offensive line. And then on our side of things, we have Curtis Samuel limited with a hip injury. He is unfortunately not a stranger to the injury report. Terry McLaurin and Sam Cosmi, both full participants in practice, but they do have something going on that causes them to be on the report. Cosmi with the shoulder, Terry, of course, with the well-known toe injury. Why don't we go ahead and flip the script? Let's talk about this Commanders defense against the Broncos offense. KDot, what pops out to you over here?
We should be able to get things done. Now, if you're looking at what the Denver Broncos did week 1, they also didn't give up any sacks as far as to the Raiders. Like Max,
they gave up 2.
They gave it 2. Okay,
yeah, ended up being 2.
So at the end of the day, it ended up being 2. But hold on, where did I look at the fucking stat that I got that wrong? But
well, Garoppolo got 0. I also did the same thing when I saw both and just flipped it. Yeah, Russ got 2.
Russ got 2, but the thing with Russ is that he still had a lot of time to throw during this game. He had a lot, like if you look at the pressure rate, it was fairly low. I think it was sub 20%, like in the sense of Russ had time to throw. He sat back there in the pocket. They just weren't necessarily connecting the way they needed to throughout the game. He looked much better in the first half than did in the second half, but overall they just couldn't muster anything offensively. And you're talking about an offense that last year was the worst in the league as far as scoring. And now you're coming into week 1 with the Sean Payton. It's supposed to be high energy, this, that, and the other. It's just not working out necessarily. Now, once again, they did not have Jerry Jeudy last week, who is to most people the most talented guy probably on that offense. He's never really necessarily scared me, but these are not dudes that you can sleep on, right? Jeudy and Courtland Sutton, they can make plays if given the opportunities to do so. But the main thing that sticks out to me as far as the Denver Broncos offense is their running back Javonte Williams and a guy who's familiar to us, is Samaje Perine.
Right.
Perine's stat at the end of the was extremely high. I think he had one pretty long run, but it was like 6 carries, like 40 some yards. But the Javonte, he didn't necessarily have like a lights out day. But what I'm comparing as far as what it is we did defensively against James Conner, who at times looked pretty fucking good against us.
Yeah.
he had 4.6 yards or something to carry. If you allow that to happen, if you got Javonte Williams getting to the second level, getting past the line and getting to the second level, he could make us pay. And what it is we want to do is get them off the fucking field. We want us to be able to control the time possession, everything. Get them the fuck off the field. We don't need those long sustained drives. There were some moments even in the Arizona game where Arizona put together a couple long drives that just petered out for them, where they ended up with field goals. I don't necessarily want that. I don't want that with the Denver Broncos. It comes down to me, you saw the pressure, you saw the lack of pressure that was getting there to Russell Wilson. That to me is indicative of I'm not entirely sure after just 1 week. I understand the Raiders have a guy like Max Crosby, but the rest of the defense, as far as the pass rush, aren't anywhere close to what it is that we offer as far as our team. Yeah. Now, with Chase Young being a full participant in practice, he gets there. Our guys were able to eat against Joshua Dobbs. I say the big thing to me is that they need to get to Russ. It's protecting the run and getting to him. You contain his ass.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point. And we're going to talk about Chase Young in just a moment, because that is still an interesting situation. Like you said, a full participant in practice. We'll get to that in a moment. I wanted to touch on the Broncos offensive game plan against the Raiders. Russ looked good. I know the final score was 17-16. And so you go, oh, low scoring. Like, both Garoppolo and Russ honestly looked good. And their QBRs and passer ratings represented that. So Russ finished with a 108 passer rating. He had 34 attempts. There were 2 throwaways. Over 50% of his targets, KDot, went to running backs and tight ends, as well as over 50% of his completions. So what does that tell you? That tells you that as they are getting adapted to Sean Payton, they are initially protecting Russ. They are right now in project build confidence in Russell Wilson. That is what's going on right now. They rolled him out a whole lot. They started using his mobility. He only had 1 rush, right? But what it was splitting the field in half, making things easy for him. And we know that it is historically been a bit difficult for us with mobile quarterbacks. So I expect more of these quick rollouts. Adam Troutman, I would expect the tight end to have a big game. So if you're looking at it from a fantasy perspective, he could certainly do some damage. They had 10 different players catch a ball last week, KDot. Like, they've invested a lot of money in Cortland Sutton. Jerry Jeudy, former first-round pick, will be playing. But I don't think it necessarily means they eat. I think they are making a concerted effort to spread this ball out everywhere. So it's going to be very important that everyone is locked in. Normally, we do have 1 or 2 guys where you're like, hey, look out for this player, look out for that player. So obviously, it's critical we get to Russ, but everyone needs to be on their toes. Everyone. When you have 10 different people catch a ball, Brandon Johnson, Lil Jordan Humphrey, like, these are the names we're talking about, right? But Cortland Sutton's still there. Adam Troutman's still there. Jerry Jeudy's going to be playing. It's going to be interesting. Let's talk Chase Young for a moment. Go ahead with Russ. Go ahead with Russ. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree as far as the Russell played well bit. I give him credit as far as mostly in the first half than I do in the second half as far as in that game and watching the truncated replay, right?
Sure.
But to me, if I'm looking at the Raiders defense and what it is they were able to do pressure-wise to him and how much time he had to throw, and still dumping off to short route or to what you have, Samaje Perine has 4 fucking receptions in that game, and then Adam Troutman was the leading receiver with 5. To me, it's if you have that much time in the pocket and you've got guys like Cortland Sutton maybe running out, you got a secondary in the Oakland Raiders where can you name 2 guys in their secondary? Right. To me, I understand the concept. I think you're being very kind to Sean Payton and Russell Wilson in the sense of thinking this is part of the offensive philosophy there for them, as much as I'm just thinking Russ is not pushing the ball down the field, which is something he didn't do last season, which is something he didn't do in Seattle necessarily where he needed to do, which is why the Geno Smith and what they had with the receivers and the offense looked lights out when they had it. It feels like more of the same from Russ, which is that it's conservative, and I don't think it's part of the game plan as much as I just don't think he's capable of doing the things that he used to do.
Okay. I would say in Seattle, it's a digression, so we'll get off it for a moment. But I mean, he was lauded for his deep ball. Like people did say that he had a very
historically. I mean, you're talking about a Super Bowl winning quarterback who was at one point coming out of the same draft with RG3. Russell Wilson was on track to be a Hall of Famer.
Fair enough, but not to digress, right? Like, we will see what ends up happening, of course, on Sunday. All I meant by that point, that they're spreading the ball around, whether it's good or bad, is that he's giving his playmakers an opportunity at space, right? So whether it be a running back, whether it be a tight end, like we've seen busted coverages with our team before, right?
Yes.
Quite frequently. So like if you end up getting a busted cover, like, it's going to be a long day. It's that simple. And if they're rolling him, the one thing I will say, and I think this is a key to the game, he is super uncomfortable rolling left. Rolling right, he's actually very, very good. Rolling left, he did miss a couple people high. He just doesn't adjust his body. Actually, Sam Howell's better than him in that respect, rolling left. So if you want to put pressure on him, I would say if you can, it's obviously a very difficult ask, force him left. If I could generate an entire game plan, roll Russ left, because I do think he gets nervous in those situations. He's still building his confidence right now.
That's the thing. For a Super Bowl winning quarterback who was on the trend to being a Hall of Famer, there should never be a conversation where we need to build your confidence back up. And it's like, to me, if you're looking historically in the NFL, the cases of quarterbacks that were great that become bad don't usually become great again. And it's just that historically. It's why I'm so low on Deshaun Watson. It's why the only guy that I can really think of in any way, shape, or form is Kurt Warner, who had one of the weirdest careers in the history of the NFL.
Sure.
He's singular in that way, right? But I think the thing with the Russ is like what you said, as far as spreading the ball around and getting the ball in playmakers' hands, they don't have them. Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton are two of the scariest guys, I think, on that offense, right?
And Javonte Williams. So that's already 3, right?
Javonte Williams isn't scary to me. Javonte Williams, to me, is a guy that can get things done if given the opportunities to do so to a certain degree. But it's the same along the lines of like James Conner. I'm not putting either one of them in top 15, top 20 territory, maybe as far as running backs go. But the idea is if you're not doing what you need to do defensively, they're NFL players. And they can make play. They can get yards.
We'll disagree on Javonte, but that again is totally fine. So on this side of the injury report, Quan Martin in concussion protocol. As of right now, don't expect him to play. Greg Dulcich. I'll just quickly touch the other side. Greg Dulcich, tight end, who they had a lot of hopes for, out with a hamstring injury. He's not going to play. Let's talk about Chase Young for a moment. There's this sort of expectation that he would come in week 3. That is a home game against the Buffalo Bills, right? He's clamoring to play. Let's start there, right? He wants to play. So when the Commanders rule him out and continue to say stinger, which I continue to think is the dumbest fucking thing they can do, but if he plays, we finally get to see, right, in a very meaningful game, Montez Sweat, who's trying to play for a new deal and did himself every favor on the planet last week. He played an excellent game. You have Deron Payne and John Allen on the interior, and you probably have Chase Young on a pitch count, but you do get to see Chase Young in action. How important is it, KDot? And we still don't know, but how important is it that Chase Young play this game?
Important to
in terms of win-loss for this week.
We don't know. And I think that's the scariest part. And that's the thing that I think me and you are in the same boat, that we have not been a fan of the way certain fans have been treating Chase Young in social media and other things.
Of course.
Lambasting him.
But we understand the frustration.
We understand the frustration. But that's the thing. The frustration to me comes with, I don't know what impact he has. Like, we would want at this point to know, oh shit, if Chase Young's on the field, that's a fucking W, right?
Right.
Like, we don't know that. Would Chase Young be on the field if it's a Javonte Williams that you're worried about, or we're worried about potentially having a James Conner-like day, but with more carries? Yeah, Chase Young helps with that. He's been fairly good as far as run defense, even if he hasn't necessarily had the numbers as far as sacks. I would love to have him on the field to help with that, right? If we're talking about containing Russell Wilson to one side, or having him have to look through his progressions to make the throw deep, that he doesn't want to make, because I think he's scared. Then yeah, of course, a Chase Young on the field eating up an offensive lineman, or eating up potentially a double team just because of the fear of Chase Young, allows Montez and Deron and John to eat. So even just the presence of him should make a difference. But the last time I can remember truly thinking Chase Young was the difference between a win and a loss, I got to go back to his rookie season.
Fair enough. And so what I will say is, for me, I think it's huge, because this guy's got comps to both the Bosas. This guy's got comps to TJ Watt. Like, he's of that mold when he was coming out as a prospect. He's a DMV guy. Like, there's a lot of hope for him here. And I think he needs to begin producing, right? Even when he made his season debut last season, think it was against San Francisco. I'd need to double check, but he immediately made an impact. He immediately was our PFF highest score on defense. So like he needs to get on the field. I think he can make a massive difference in this game, even on a pitch count. But we'll see.
So that's what it goes to. That goes to what I'm saying. Important for whom, right? So like,
right. Well, I'm saying it's important for us for winning because it actually changes my prediction, which we're about to get to. Go ahead.
Ooh, okay. It goes as far as changing your prediction.
Yes.
Now I'm getting really curious. But the thing with Chase Young to me is that it's important for Chase and important for the team for him to get as many opportunities to show that he's still the guy that we hope he is. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping he gets that opportunity. I hope that he's good enough to fucking play.
Fair enough.
I'm also hoping that they don't rush him back in there before he's fucking too ready.
I don't think they are definitely not doing that. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah,
let's go ahead and jump over to predictions. So we have the Broncos favored by 3.5 over our Washington Commanders. Again, they are at home. It is going to be rocking over there. The over under is at 39. KDot, I need a score. I need a winner, and I need a player of the game.
Score, I'm going 2017 Commanders.
Okay.
I want to go lower with that score, if I'm being completely honest, but 2017 is what I'm going with. It feels good to me. I'm going to say player of the game is actually Sam Howell. There is an aspect, there's something that he's looking to accomplish, which is that there's not been a quarterback, I think, in NFL history in their first 3 starts to have a rushing touchdown and a passing touchdown. I think he gets both of those this week. And with no picks, that'll be the surprise. No picks. He doesn't force it to Patrick Surtain thing. And we get the W.
Okay. I have the Broncos winning 20-13. I do think this is Sam Howell's first ever game on the road. And it is in an incredibly loud, hostile, high expectations environment in Denver. There's the altitude as well. Ron Rivera's comments on that. He's following up on like, hey, the shorter amount of time you're there, the less it affects you. Pretty interesting thought there, but I would say 20-13. Broncos player of the game, Javonte Williams. So I think that's where we sort of differ. If James Conner was able to do what he was able to do, and the Broncos have invested in their offensive line quite heavily in Ben Powers and Mike McGlinchey, right? 5 years, $87 million, and I think 4 years, 62 or something like that. And they look good in their first game as Broncos. I do expect Javonte to have a nice game. It helps ease the pressure on Russ. This is where Chase Young comes in real handy, right? We talk about helping on run defense. We talk about stifling that run to allow us to tee off. I think Chase helps with that, right? And I think he's able to get a sack potentially. So if Chase plays, I think we win. That is how big a difference I think it can make, because the entire game flow changes when a guy like him is on the field. But I have 20-13, Denver Broncos getting a win. They got to capitalize on the Jets' injury at QB with Zach Wilson. That is a new playoff spot that opens up potentially, right? They're talking about playoffs. Everyone had the Jets in the playoffs. Now they don't. So this is an opportunity for them. They need to begin seizing it. Though, of course, obviously, we want the Commanders to win. That's right.
You were so much higher on the Broncos, man.
I think conservative can win. I think it is one of those things where I'm not expecting them to light the world on fire. 20 points is not lighting the world on fire, KDot.
No, it's not. You have playoff aspirations for the Broncos.
Because they have said it. They have said it.
Sean Payton says a lot of shit.
I respect Sean Payton as a coach, and I think what they're doing with Russ is smart.
I don't respect Sean Payton nearly as much as you do. Fuck Fair his enough. Cowboy loving ass.
I agree with that. I just think he's a damn good coach.
Hey, look, outside of what he did for New Orleans after Katrina, fuck him. You can tell him I said it. From Nathaniel Hackett, fuck him. Right? Well,
actually, that alludes to our comment mailbag here in just a moment. But KDot, you did build us a parlay. What you got for us?
All right, so I don't know how much Alma's gonna like this since he's a Bronco fan over here.
I'm not a Bronco fan. I just think if Chase doesn't play, the Broncos will win.
All right. So what I did, so I went 4 legs with this, but I think that there are 2. I don't know.
We miss out on a 3-legger. Naturally, we add a leg and we say, let's do it again.
Because I'm feeling fucking crazy. All right, I'm feeling crazy.
Go for it.
All right, so I do think Sam Howell gets this record in the sense of a passing touchdown and a rushing touchdown in this game. I'm adding those 2 legs. Sam Howell, 1 passing TD thrown. Sam Howell score anytime touchdown. I also have the easier sell, I think, to you is I'm going to take the under with the total points. They have it at 39.5.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the under there for that. I just think overall, these are two offenses that are still trying to figure it the fuck out.
Mhm.
This should be a not excitingly. This is not going to be fun. This should be a fun game. I don't look at these teams and think, oh my God, this is going to be a lot of fun to watch. This is going to be, let's get through it. Okay. So under 39.5. The other thing that I'm taking, which runs counter to Ahmed's prediction, is I'm taking the Commanders plus 3.5. I think that if there is a situation where the Broncos do win this game, because you have two offenses that are kind of middling, I doubt they do it by more than they're not going to do it by more than the field goal. So
Okay.
this is where I'm at with it. If you do those 4 legs on the parlay from BetMGM, you get plus 3,000 is what you're looking at as far as your odds.
30 to 1.
31. Now, if you want to play it a little safe, maybe you take more stock into what Ahmed's saying. What'd you have the final score being? It was
20 to 13.
So let's say that Sam Howell does get 2 touchdowns, but Joey Slye fucks up on a extra point. That's what we're gonna go with Ahmed's prediction. That's how it worked out. So we'll eliminate the plus 3.5. Still 3 legs that I'm feeling pretty good about. You're still at plus 2,800.
Wow.
And that's under 39.5 in the Sam Howell passing TD and a score anytime touchdown. And you can work some things off of that. There's a lot of good things. Like if you want to go to 2, say that Sam Howell gets the rushing TD and under 39.5, that's plus 1,300. You got wiggle room, guys.
You got plenty of wiggle room. Appreciate the parlay there, KDot. Let's go ahead and jump into the comment mailbag as we always do. And we have 3 comments. We have one from our recap video. And then we have 2 from the previous video from Cardinals fans. So we're going to jump into those in just a moment. But we begin with Patriot Clips. Shout out Patriot Clips. Appreciate you. On the recap video, first 3 quarters, 42 dropbacks, 15 designed runs. Seems like a bad game plan by EB for a game against the Cardinals at home in the rain with a new quarterback. While our defense is dominating, I'm sure he'll improve. Appreciate the comment there, Patriot Clips. I actually agree with it to an extent, right? Like, you do want to have more balance on offense. I think Antonio Gibson fumbling, and I think the ineffective nature of Brian Robinson and just the run game in general, right? 19 carries, 59 ultimately. But it wasn't really going early on. I think EB did get pass happy, and I think he also wanted to prove the point that, hey, I can coordinate an offense and we could put up a ton of points. KDot, what do you make of the comment?
I think you're kind of nailing it. Like I really do think when you're having an offense learning, it's really hard to stay disciplined to what it is you might even go into the game thinking the game plan might be, which might have been they wanted to run a more balanced attack. But when you have the Gibson fumble, they might have lost complete confidence in them, which changes things up. I was surprised, maybe not surprised, because it was something we thought was going to happen, but the way that they got Curtis Samuel involved in that game made me think that the Curtis Samuel was doing some things that I thought they were going to have more Antonio Gibson doing.
And he might, again, I mean, he's been limited in practice with the hip, Curtis Samuel has.
Right. So like, I'm not sure exactly how that fits in. I don't know if they're looking at him more like a Deebo Samuel type, which we're just going to plug him in anywhere, which I'd love to see if he can play. So I don't know. I would say that overall, as far as this offense, I'd like to see a much more balanced rushing attack between the guys that we have. I need a more balanced attack between Robinson and Gibson. To me, that is more of a recipe for success. But Gibson is not doing himself any favors if he can't fucking hold on to football.
Yeah, and I mean, you even hear Eric Bieniemy say, hey, he is not the prize. The ball is the prize, right? And everybody wants it. You got to love what EB's saying at the very least. Whether you agree or disagree with his play calls, he's saying all the right things and making sure we prioritize the ball over the individual.
But that's the thing is, even if you look at last year with Brian Robinson, I think I was a little more critical of him than most, especially coming off the gunshot.
You absolute dick. Yeah, go ahead.
But 3.9 yards a carry. Like, the thing was that even in the Taylor Heineke aspect of things, we were looking at how much we were dominating time of possession and stuff. And it wasn't because Brian Robinson was doing anything amazing. It was just we stuck with it. There was an element of just sticking with the run, even if it doesn't seem like the most effective at times. Is playing the field position game until you can get Sam Howell enough confidence to start launching that ball downfield. And
part of my fear is that we won't be able to run the ball, just given how well the Broncos defense played. It puts too much on Howell. That's part of the prediction in the 20 to 13.
I
so just wanted to explain that bit.
Plus you love the Broncos. Got it. Sean Payton's your favorite coach.
Let's go ahead and talk about the Cardinals then. We got 2 comments over there. One from James Duncan. Everything you two said about Arizona is the exact same situation in Washington. The Commanders' QB carousel has been a constant rotation since Alex Smith. Both shitty teams with shitty players simmered down. Here's the thing. We're playing with house money. We got new owners. We're not about to simmer down, right? It is one of those things where Arizona is quite blatantly tanking still, and we are still figuring out what we have in Sam Howell. You're not figuring out what you have in Josh Dobbs. So there's a big difference there. I think historically, good point. Good point. But overall, this season, I think it's a different picture. What do you think, KDot?
First and foremost, thank you for watching. Thank you for leaving a comment. Helps with the algorithm. Now, fuck the fuck off. You guys are the Arizona fucking Cardinals. You're one of like the 3 oldest franchises in the history of sports. How many championships you got? Suck my dick from the back. All right. No, fuck off. You got the one run that you guys have with Larry Fitzgerald and resurrecting Kurt fucking Warner. You couldn't even keep that going. How many goddamn quarterbacks you guys are picking mad early?
Rosen. Josh
Rosen. Colin Murray. Oh, when's the last time Washington shelled out money for a Colin fucking Murray with a goddamn video game clause? You dipshit. Like, if you want to, here, and feel free, share this with all your little Cardinals fans out there in Arizona. Like, fuck off. Fuck off. It's Arizona.
You're going to love this next one. Lil J Music.
Are you shitting me?
Lil J Music. Clown organization, maybe in the past, but you're so uneducated. Whole new GM and coaching staff. This is a whole nother ball game, and tanking isn't the word. They're competing, and you clown. We'll see that tomorrow. I will say the Cardinals did compete, but I'm very excited to hand this over to KDot. Any additional comments there aside from what you said earlier?
Lil J, I'll give you credit. You got 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. We're trying to get there. We want to be like you one day. What we won't do is be a fucking MGK ripoff to get there, though. Hold on, I'm getting personal. I'm sorry. It ain't about I don't want to be a clown to Lil J and his music. Like, I ain't trying to get caught in the fucking freestyle, you know. I don't want any of that fucking smoke. I don't need Lil.
Could you imagine if there is a district divided diss from Lil J?
We get DJ Pauly Polo, drop a beat, and we
Pauly Polo would eviscerate him, bro.
We go at it. How many are you from Arizona, Lil J? Is that what you repping? You repping Arizona? You repping Arizona real hard, homie? Fuck out of here, man. Like, you see, he got personal calling us clowns, right? Look, I give you guys credit. Your Josh Dobbs tanking ass team, y'all held with us. It's a disappointment for me and my franchise looking that we were anywhere close to y'all clown ass tanking motherfuckers. Getting rid of Colt McCoy right before the season started.
Ridiculous.
Like, you gonna tell me y'all ain't get the fuck out of here? Yeah, of course. All those rookies and 4-stringers and guys that wouldn't make other teams, they're playing hard. Ain't no getting around it. And I'm rooting for those dudes. They should play hard. You should not just roll over and tank, right? It's bullshit. I don't agree with it philosophically. But Lil J, work on your rhymes. That's all I got. Work on your fucking rhymes. I tried to listen to your song, I'll Drive. Couldn't make it through it, bro. Couldn't do it. Was this but like a driving song? It didn't feel right, man. Get your weight up.
That was the show. This is District Divided DC Sports Podcast, more specifically a Washington Commanders podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening today. Really appreciate it. We are about to begin after the pod right now, where we get to talk about whatever we want. That begins right now.
Boom.
Good show.
Boom.
First off, good show. Lil J. The Aaron Rodgers, Zach Wilson, New York Jets situation.
Yeah.
First off, the anticipation of this Bills-Jets Monday night game, for me and many, many others, there had been a constant buildup of anticipation for this New York Jets team against the Buffalo Bills, right? Who always have hype around them. Maybe a little less this year, but hype nonetheless. For him to go down in 4 plays was one of the most devastating injuries in terms of anticipation, excitement, hype that had been built around a guy. A 4-time MVP. 2 of the last 3 MVPs have gone to him. And for him to get hurt, I feel sorry for Jets fans. Let's start there. I do. Come on. How could you not feel sorry for Jets fans in that situation?
You ever met a Jet fan you like?
One. Shout out Alon.
Is that the only?
And a lot of times I don't like him. No, two. Oh, shout out Kalane as well. So they're two. Kalane Conahan. There we go. We got two Jets fans that I like.
The Jet fans that I know are annoying sports fans. They make their entire. So I grew up a Yankees fan, and because Washington didn't have a team, and I hate the Orioles because I hate Peter Angelos and his cock blocking Washington from getting the team waves. So it was always easy to go up the Beltway or go up 295 and go see an Orioles versus Yankees game as a kid. Okay,
right.
So Yankees became my thing. They had their own television network. It was fucking easy to follow the team. But one of the reasons I love the Yankees so much is because I fucking hated Red Sox fans. And to me, Jets fans kind of fit in that territory. That whole woe is me. Nothing ever happens right for me. Nothing ever happened right for my team. You make your entire identity a fucking victim. Fuck off. Like, I don't like that shit.
They all do it. I'll give you that. The Rich Eisen commentary on it was spectacular. I don't know if you had the chance to see it. Oh my gosh, it is so good.
It's Jets and
16
Mets
minutes of grief.
It's Jets and Mets.
But
If you're a Jets fan, you're a Mets fan.
Here's what I want to get to. What do you think they should do? Right? So Zach Wilson, they seem to absolutely hate. Let's be real. I know that they're like, hey, we're behind you, stuff like that. They literally threw him to the Wolves at the end of last season, right? Mm-hmm. Yes. And it was because he didn't play well, right? Yeah. Obviously. But they basically did that. They openly twerked for Aaron Rodgers with that Sauce Gardner, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson video. We were like, come here. We'll burn the cheese. We'll do it all. Like, we'll do anything you want. Then they bring him in. They say that Super Bowl trophy looks a little lonely. Rodgers does. All of a sudden, there's all this hype. We got Hard Knocks. We're talking about the defense. Hard Knocks was a giant Aaron Rodgers commercial. Like, clearly they put everything in this guy. He runs with the flag on 9/11. 4 plays in, Zach Wilson comes in. They do win.
It's also
they do win.
Jets thing and Jets. It's the
Jet thing. But KDot, of course it is. That's why I kind of feel sorry for Jets fans. But what do they?
Can't feel sorry for them.
What do they do? Do they stick with Zach or Vikings are 0-2? Cousins is in a contract year. I don't think they're going to re-sign him, and their next few games are difficult. Is there a thought? I'm serious. Is there a thought where you go, hey, Kirk in a contract year? It sounds like Rodgers is coming back, but you can never be sure. Is there a thought? Let's bring Kirk in. And by the time the bye rolls around and we pray we get to 3-3, we still have a championship caliber defense. Breece Hall looked a lot better than people expected. Is that what we do? Or do we continue with Zach Wilson? What do you think?
What's lost in everything is they won the game. No one remembers that. A lot of people remember that. I don't think anyone remembers. I think a year or 2 years from now, when we're thinking about the Aaron Rodgers, there will be, hold on, did they win that game? That's going to be the thought process behind this thing. They won the game. Now, once again, I have my feelings about Josh Allen, whatever. We can get to that if we want to. But the Zach Wilson sucks. There's no getting around. I like Zach Wilson because I think he's actually talented. It's just
I think so too.
Terrible.
His confidence is. You talk about confidence. We've always talked about it.
I think he's confident.
I don't think so. I think it got wrecked over time for sure.
I think he's misplaced confidence.
Okay.
I just think he just doesn't. I think he checks out. I think anything that people are teaching him coaching wise or what to look out for or anything goes blank when he's out there on the fucking field. And that comes with when you have guys that have rested their laurels on physical talents above learning defenses and things more than anything. All right, but what did the Jets do? The Kirk Cousins thing is interesting. I don't see that necessarily happening, especially with the money. I mean, I know they're all in, so they don't really give a fuck about money. I don't know what their salary cap situation is.
And it's a one-year rental.
It's a one-year rental.
Unless Rodgers retires, in which case they can extend Kirk. See, so like it can work.
But a one-year rental unless Kirk Cousins actually lights it up. And then are you cutting bait with Aaron? What happens with
that's if Aaron cuts bait with them. Right? So like that's sort of the thinking is
if Kirk comes in,
right,
plays well, right, Aaron has every intention of coming back.
Mm-hmm.
They go deep into the playoffs. Let's say they get to the division round of playoffs under Kirk Cousins, right?
Yeah.
Are you re-signing Kirk, or if Aaron says, I want to come back, what do you do?
I think that's an interesting, that is a very interesting situation. I think they still go with Aaron, believe it or not. just because the talent is still significant. Like that difference in talent is still significant. But you look at the game that the Vikings played, and I'm beginning to open my eyes to it because I'm a known Kirk Cousins hater. He was spectacular yesterday. Let's be real. Like, he was excellent. He was constantly under pressure. He ended up throwing for over 350 yards, 4 touchdowns. Like, he was brilliant. They just turned the ball over 4 times. One of them was on him, but it was a blindside sack. Like, what more is he supposed to do on that Vikings team? What are their aspirations?
I thought they were coming back. I thought they were going to come back to win it, honestly.
There you go. But
that's what happens when you got Kirk Cousins on your team.
Well, that's true. That is true. But like, I think with the supporting cast that he would have,
I think it's a little out there. I think that, number one, Minnesota, I don't think what the Jets would have to give up to entice Minnesota to make that happen, I think would be too much. And Minnesota, I think, is trying to make a bit of a run. They look at the NFC, they look at, hey, we've got talent. And they look at a division in which things are really up in the air. You got the Detroit Lions that are supposed to be lights out on offense. Defensively, they got Aiden Hutchinson, some guys that they've drafted, but who knows?
Right.
The Green Bay Packers are now Aaron Rodgers less. I think the Minnesota Vikings with Kirk Cousins and who they have on offense between Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison don't want to take a step back. Like, why would they want to do it?
Most certainly not. But what I'm saying is that, okay, so
what would the Jets have to give up to get a Kirk Cousins for the rest of this year?
First round pick. Maybe another, but here's the thing, they have it. And if they know they're going to be good enough to be middle of the pack anyway, what's the point in keeping it? So
the point to me in keeping it is what you're also want to do with Aaron Rodgers being there. If Zach Wilson's not the guy, is the draft his eventual replacement. Like that,
but you don't need to do that immediately. So
you need to do that. You need to do that while Aaron Rodgers is there.
I think it's an interesting conversation because, okay, let's say, here you go. The next game for the Minnesota Vikings, they play the LA Chargers. That is, I don't know how you'd view it. The Chargers, I think, are good.
Yeah.
I think they can win that game.
Defensively, and not so much, but I like the Chargers.
Sure. Let's say they drop to 0-3.
The Vikings?
Right. The Vikings.
Then it gets more interesting, but
that's what I'm talking about. So, like, at that point, do you take a first for Kirk knowing you're not re-signing him? Why wouldn't you? So I think that is enough to get that over the line if the Jets choose to do that. From a narrative perspective, I would love for Zach Wilson to prove people wrong. The likelihood is slim.
So you know who the Jets play this week?
Yeah, Dallas.
And
everyone's
Dallas,
chalking that as a loss.
Is everything that Dallas showed one of the most dominating defensive performances I've ever seen.
It was one of the most dominant of all time.
I'm scared for Zach Wilson in this game. Now
they're going to run like crazy. We're talking 40 carries. Let's just get out and maybe cover the spread.
So that to me is the thing. Do you know what Zach Wilson's record was last year?
He played against a bunch of backups. I want to say it was like 7-4, 7-5,
5-4.
It was 5-4. Okay.
5-4. It
was about 500.
Mike White and Joe Flacco both finished 1-3. Now, also with that 5-4 run that Zach Wilson had, that was also partially when Breece Hall was healthy.
Yes.
Breece Hall looked fucking great in that game. Dalvin Cook looks like, hey, fuckers, I'm still here. And I still
got it. I had a different takeaway from that.
To me, it was just he needed more carries. Like, Dalvin Cook's also a dude that you got to feed to a certain degree. You got to get him. And I think he's getting more into. He's trying to figure out what my rhythm's going to be, not being the number one guy, not being the bell cow. Because even when he was in Minnesota, they would go to Mattinson at times, but he was clearly the true and far favorite as far as that running back room.
Uh-huh.
I think that there is a learning curve with that. To me, if you're the New York Jets and you're expecting Aaron Rodgers to come back, this is not the time to throw all in on another quarterback as much as it's what you're looking to do is find the best possible game manager to me that doesn't put a detriment to the team. Like, if you already heard that, like, if I'm the Jets, I'm what I've heard they did this week, I'm calling the Commanders about Jacoby.
Yeah, of course. And I bet they will.
Right. Depending on Zach Wilson's performance this week, I think Salah's doing the right thing. Hey, we're going with Zach Wilson the rest of the year. He said that, right? Right. Knowing the Cowboys are up next and Zach could have an absolutely horrific performance against
what is the just real quick, what is the expectation for Zach Wilson against this Cowboys defense?
To throw 5 times.
Honestly, it feels like that, right? The New England Patriots against the Buffalo Bills in that crazy weather where Mac Jones threw it 3 times.
I keep bringing it up to people. Is like if the Jets are out of their fucking minds if they don't do that. I'm saying
he can throw quick screens.
No,
Like,
nope.
You can't
Nope.
even stretch the Cowboys
Nope.
defense. You won't even
Nope.
do that.
No.
You could do that.
Dalvin Cook, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, all should have at least 15 carries.
Garrett Wilson.
Garrett Wilson on fucking.
You're talking 15 jet sweeps.
All of them in the backfield and run it. If you run 3 yards of fucking play, if that, right?
Why does everyone act
Russell.
like Zach Wilson is like this special needs QB? Like he's not nearly as bad. He does. He does.
And you're talking about a Dallas defense that when the pressure's in your face and Trayvon Diggs is back there, like it could get scary.
I agree.
Quick. Run the ball. I don't care if you're punting every fucking time. You know what's gonna win the Jets a game?
Defense. I get that.
Defense. So
yes.
run
and apparently special teams.
Ball.
That Xavier Gibson return was one of the coolest things ever.
Look,
especially with the Hard Knocks.
I like the Jets defense against the Cowboys offense. I think
I do
there's
too.
an opportunity there. I think there are turnover opportunities there with Dak. Run the ball. Just run it. I don't give a fuck. Like, this is where when Bill Belichick did it, when Bill Belichick did that against the Bills, right? If anyone had gone into that game, previewing that game, thought that was what was going to happen, they'd be like, is this 1940? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And what did he do? I'm doing it anyway. I don't give a fuck. That's
because Bill's a G, dude. He doesn't give a shit.
Saleh and Hackett need to make this is the standing point. We're not doing anything else but running the ball. Y'all are going to have it. There should be, by the time the third quarter rolls around, they don't even have DBs out on the fucking field. Like, they're just fucking. Like, they just.
We all know what this is. We
know. And here's the thing: Zach Wilson's going to look at him and say, "I realize all my guys are open. I ain't throwing the ball."
You messed up for that. You messed
laughable.
up for that.
It should be laughable the amount of times they run the ball this game.
All right, over under before we leave. Over under number of pass attempts. If I were to set it at 8, what do you think actually happens?
They're gonna go over because
okay.
Don't think they're that
how about
smart.
this? 15. Over under 15. How many does Zach have?
There might be over. I don't know what the Jets are gonna do. I don't think that they're that smart. I really don't. So like I like Saleh a lot, but I also know he doesn't run the offense. And then I also like. So here's the thing: I don't like Sean Payton. I think what he said about Nathaniel Hackett was classless.
I completely agree with you.
Nathaniel Hackett wasn't good. So
I think both things can be true.
But there's also an element of looking at the game plan they had that last game, where I was looking at that game, I was like, why aren't they running Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook? Like,
Breece Hall, they still had on a pitch count. He had 17 snaps.
But overall, what you can see with the game plan is I think Nathaniel Hackett probably had a little bit of shit in his britches because he thought my co-offensive coordinator's in the locker room getting an x-ray done. Holy shit, I got to do things now.
Right.
And they had an entire offense, the entire offseason built around what Aaron Rodgers was going to do. And here's the thing, looking at what that game plan was this night, I'm realizing the Jets had it wrong. I think that they were prepared to have Aaron throw the ball 40 times a game.
They were. You could tell. And that was a mistake. It should have been.
It should never been that case. So like, if I'm looking at that, I'm like, I don't know. Because I think that they were going to fuck it up anyway. Because look, this the other thing is like, when I was
even when Brady joined Tampa, they were running a whole lot with Fournette and stuff like that. So it wasn't like they were like, we got Brady, we're just going to throw 50 times. That only started happening once the run became completely ineffective.
It's when it's you have a Hall of Fame quarterback. I'm only going to ask him to throw 20 times a game because now the Buccaneers went way off the other way at certain points, but there's Bruce Arians stuff. But the thing with Aaron Rodgers is the concept that you have to have is I can have Hall of Fame quarterback play that's been a little middling the last year. I can have him throw 40 times or I can have him throw 20 times with a running back room that's fucking awesome. Let me get 20 Hall of Fame throws to Garrett Wilson. I can get really effective with those 20 fucking throws.
Sure.
But they weren't going to do that because they were going to have Aaron kind of run thing. And we saw it on Hard Knocks. Aaron, we can't do this, guys. We got to do it this way. And Hackett, okay. So I really don't know. If it was up to me, they would run constantly. But
we'll see what happens.
They have a defense that's worthwhile.
We'll see what happens. But we got to bounce, guys. Thank you guys for listening. Be curious to see what you guys think about the Jets QB situation as well.
Josh Allen suck. I'm sorry, he doesn't suck. He's overrated. Just got to.
I agree. I completely agree with that. All right, we'll see you guys later.
Bye, guys.
In DC, we're just hoping that you listen.